Hello Exiles. Today I wanted to share my take on Bloodmage build with Ember Fusillade as the main skill. It was sort of pioneered by Captain Lance and I followed along with his league starter. I know I'm a bit late to the party, but still I reckon there's a lot of stuff I discovered or maybe sort of built upon which differs from the build and made it much better and cheaper. There's a lot of tech some people are sleeping on, and I just wanted to share it with you if you're still playing the 0.3 patch and enjoying the game, and maybe you're also started late and need some upgrade paths for your build and don't want to spend hundreds of divines on corrupted Kaom's hearts or wrath pits. So generally many of the things that build guides set as mandatory, certain uniques, are usually not mandatory. So what do I mean by that? Usually if you're a blood mage and life stacking of course, you would opt for a Kaom's heart. I don't have a Kaom's heart. You would opt for the Tecrod jewel, which of course I have, but I want to prove my point. I want to show you what it's like if you unspec it in my version of the build. So this one will no longer give me any life regen. Now I am at a life cost of 2.1k, and as you see here I have no life leech, none at all. There's nothing on my gear, nothing on my tree. So if you can see, my life kinda stays low. Now you would argue, how is it even possible to play the game anymore? So let's do a quick showcase. The highest tier breach domain. Also I'll take off my flask just so you know I won't be using it. And as you can see, I'm fine. For some mysterious reason my life still fills up, and in theory I could run this build without having to invest, I don't know, 10 divs or whatever into the Tecrod jewel. And I can run less recovery maps, 60%, 70%, whatever it rolls. No issue at all. Of course, Ember Fusillade is maybe not regarded as the best skill right now. The hype is Spark because it has such good clear potential. But the way I built my Ember Fusillade, it really is a good crowd control skill. It forks, and in many cases, depending on my infusions, it will also chain. And with Unleash, I'm generating 9 Fusillade charges with a single cast. So also there's no Scion Temper Wild Charge proccing going on with the circle firing, which is super annoying. And even then, if there's too much going on, such as in breaches or when the abyssal monsters spawn from their holes, I do have my Fireball, which is also supported by Unleash, so I can show you here. It will fire a huge fireball explosion that kills any white or blue mob. Sorry, I missed that opportunity. Now to show you the boss damage.
We that dreamed, we nightmare, we that are one, we tired.
So that's a Xesht 3 boss with no life leech, no Tecrod life regen, with a skill that costs 2.1k life. Alright, back to the hideout and I'll show you how it's done. So, where do I get my life from? Of course, as a Bloodmage you have life remnants, but it's not really reliable and it's just a nice bonus. As you can see above here, I have Time of Need. That's because I'm not running a Kaom's Heart. I can have auras or spirit gems. In this case I have Time of Need buffed to level 25, but you don't need this. It's like an 8 div jewel, which gives me 1067 life. It says every 9.6 seconds. However, if you spec compressed duration, it will actually be 2.25 seconds, because you also have with Ember Fusillade the reduced skill effect duration nodes to make it feel good, such that the projectiles will fire quickly after casting. So that means 2.25 seconds, 1067 life, which is effectively around 500 life per second regen, which is huge. I mean, it's like, I don't know, 9% of my life regenerating from a single aura, which reserves, I don't know, 30 spirit. One thing I forgot to mention, which I'll interject here, is I'm also using the cannibalism support, which gives my experience, it's the same level of life regen as Time of Need. During mapping, you'll always be killing regen as Time of Need. During mapping, you'll always be killing regen as getting more lives. During mapping, you'll always have tackling and getting 15 more lives. Get this on a rare jewel. I don't know, it's a suffix, but then you have to trade it for 30% crit multi. So as long as you're not running Kaoms, which I showcased in this video, is not necessary. You can just spec it into an aura, and you'll have all the life recovery you need without Tecrod. And then if you occasionally find yourself in a sticky situation where everything comes apart, occasionally find yourself in a sticky situation where everything take a magic flask comes apart in life. Of course, if you have the money, you can buy the Allroths, which is 1k instant recovery. You don't need it. It's just for some very rare sticky situations where you might be overwhelmed in some very rare overrun situation or whatever. So might be overwhelmed. Try it on your own, see how it feels, and let me know in the comments. The next thing is, I'm running a haste aura beast. It's just nice to have. I'm running at level 9 because that's the lowest you can get with the taming beast skill. That's because of the dex requirement. So you need 57 dex that you can just get from a single dex roll on your rings, for example. Also my boots need dex, so it's alright. And of course, siphon elements. Now, usually when you have a Kaom's Heart, you cannot run this, so you need a Spellslinger wand. Spellslinger wands are crazy expensive, like something like this with which is not sanctified, with +5 levels and some good mods and so on. They, with 2 sockets, they go for 100 divs, 200 divs. It's crazy. Even just the crafting base will be with level 81, so you can roll the +5 will be upwards of 100 divs. So of course you can go with just 1 socket, but again, here you really want the 50% for spells to deal to fire 2 additional projectiles, which gets your chance to 100. So this one, with this you can reliably cast 9 Fusillade orbs with a single cast, which makes it feel really nice. Of course you can stack more gem levels for more damage, but we do have enough damage, let me tell you that. So if I spec my Sacrifice of Blood again, you can see my tooltip damage is 2.3 million, which is more than enough for any content whatsoever. So with the siphon elements you don't need Spellslinger wands because it will just generate enough charges. I've never had an issue. I've always had the full remnant charges, so works great. In this case I've supported it with this gem, just ignore it, it's super expensive, it's just because I had the money and you get like 1% extra to spawn a remnant. It's not big of a deal. So I still have Snap, manual cast to generate charges. This is only used for bossing, because on bosses this one doesn't work, so when you're bossing you can just, I don't know, snap and get some infusions. Because the cool thing about Ember Fusillade is, many people are also sleeping on this probably, is that it consumes lightning infusions. Usually you'd want fire infusion for your fireball, but getting lightning infusion for the Fusillade is really nice. For one, it looks really cool when your red-yellow orbs are firing blue lasers at the enemies, but also these chain. So you'll get a great crowd control and a good clearing skill from Ember Fusillade. How do you get lightning infusions? Well, you have to have some lightning damage. I don't have lightning damage, so either you have it on your wand as a gain damage, as extra lightning damage, or in this case, sort of that's the end game option, because it's really expensive, you run Spirit of the Stag, which gives you 20% damage as extra lightning. That's, I think, the most expensive item on this build. As I said, you can just get the gain as extra on your wand and can run any other thing. In this case, I sanctified my wand, and that's the one I hit the +6, so I had to put my lightning damage on this one. So, what else is there? Of course, the body armor. It's one of the biggest pieces in your build, and Kaom's Heart gives crazy amount of life. You can slot in the 3% life runes. However, these are super expensive. A Kaom's Heart with a good corruption, I don't know, 1800 lives will go for 100 divs, 200 divs. If it's got 3 sockets, it's insanely expensive. So I'd argue that with this chest, which you can get for less than a divine, you have an equal amount of power. Why? Because you have this increased life node here, and that's just this essence. It's basically free, it costs nothing, and you're guaranteed to hit 8 to 10% life on your body armor. So what you do is you just go and trade, buy Vile Robes, which is the highest ES base, with 2 good energy rolls, T1 or T2, and with a shitty third prefix. That's why usually you can get them for cheap, maybe 100x, maybe 1 divine, but it's super cheap. You just buy 3 of them, slap 3 essences on, and you're good to hit one of these. Now, depending on your suffixes, you don't even need that good suffixes. 1 res is enough, because if you're again just slapping on this essence, which gives the reduced crit damage bonus, which is a really nice feature to have in your build. It, together with this node, it will give you 75% reduced crit, so crits are suddenly not an issue anymore, especially in those high crit maps with extra damage, or in the logbooks which often give the mod all enemy hits are critical, so really nice feature. And then just desecrate some other shitty suffix to some hybrid res or whatever. So you get a lot of power from your chest piece. Of course, you need to spec these 2 nodes, but I'd argue that Life Leech is just not needed. I've tried it out, I've tested the difference it makes, and it's just, I don't know, doesn't feel any different. You don't need it. I never had issues with my life, so you can use these 2 nodes. This one gives 3% life, and this one makes your body armor give life. So this one gives 840 flat life, plus, let's say I didn't sanctify it, plus 10% life, plus 3% life, and since you can get resistances on here, you don't need so many resistance on your ring. That's why you can get stats on your ring. And for example, these 2 stats alone, you can now take more strength on the tree, are effectively 130 life. Or in this case, I attributed them with the catalyst, so it's closer to 160 life flat, just because I have the res on my body armor. which in turn is on par with a standard non-corrupted Kaom's Heart. And you get the benefit of having a spirit and so on and so forth. It's much cheaper, and also you get a huge boost of energy shield. So now, right now I have 1.7k energy shield. Of course the build doesn't really use it, but if you're speccing Zealot's Oath, it's always like full your energy. The regen always fills it up instantly, so it's a huge one-shot buffer. So even the really hard-hitting enemies like this Quadrilla Yeti beast, it usually cannot one-shot you, even if it crits, because you have so high crit reduction. So the next thing is, all the people with high budgets will stack the Grand Spectrum Ruby jewels. Now, of course, if you've got three of them, it's 18% life, which is huge. However, they cost 50 divs a pop, so 150 divs, and you need to path to 3 jewel sockets. Now, I've tested this in PoE, I've tested multiple configurations, and in none of them I could build a tree that was better than what I currently have without the Grand Spectrums. Of course, you do get a higher life number, but you have to unspec so many damage nodes and so many quality of life nodes to just get to all the jewel sockets that the damage in the end will be exactly the same or even less, and you lose a lot of quality of life, and you have to invest a huge amount of money into the Grand Spectrum. So I'd argue just don't use them. Another thing that people might be sleeping on, I don't know, I've seen many on PoE Ninja, I've seen many build trees which don't spec these nodes, is armor break. Since we have Atalu's Bloodletting, of course our main damage is physical. It's, I don't know, 90% of the damage is physical, so the only defense of the enemy is armor. Of course we're hitting hard, so the armor mitigation is not huge. However, what many people might be sleeping on is that you have a condition which fully breaks the enemy's armor. And even on bosses, I've tested this, usually after the first or second hit of Ember Fusillade, the armor is fully broken. And I think you can see it somewhere down here. Here. Fully broken armor means the enemy will have 20% increased physical damage taken, which is effectively a 20% more damage multiplier. So even though these nodes seem to be only giving, I don't know, some 1-3% of damage increase, it's actually a 20% more damage multiplier if you can break armor. You can also get this feature on a rite of passage with the wolf spirit. However, the times where you need this most is with bosses, and usually this is not triggered when fighting a boss, especially if you have bosses like, I don't know, the Citadel bosses, which have huge animation times, so you won't be possessed by a wolf spirit, and then you won't break armor. So I'd argue this one is the best option. It's reliable, you always break armor. This one with 10% is more than enough. I've spec'd these impale nodes, which, I don't know, doesn't really make big of a difference, but you don't need these two, so I just picked impale. The next thing is I'm not speccing blood magic, even though I'm a blood mage. Why? Because with Ataluis, Ember Fusillade will naturally have just life cost. It says skills are converted to life cost. So you don't need it. It's just a wasted passive points. Now I have Fireball. However, it only uses 287 mana. Why is it so little? Because you just pick this node and this, which converts most of your mana cost to life cost. So I can't, even though I have like no mana on my gear, just like a random mana roll on my boots, but I think there's no other gear with mana. I have 830 mana, I can just cast Fireball, I don't know, and just hit my mana flask when I cast Fireball and it's up again, so there's no issue at all. And which has another secondary beneficiary effect. If you have mana, you can use Zenith. It says you get 30% more damage if you're above 90% of mana. And since we're mostly casting Ember Fusillade, and if we're using Fireball, like, your mana is instantly up again. It's like half a second or something where you're not above 90% mana. This will always trigger, and 30% more damage is like more or less the best damage support you can get. If I just take a Fire Mastery skill, because skill levels are also huge damage multiplier, but if I swap it out, it's 2.3k almost, 1.7k. It's crazy how much damage this does. You could run with 1 mana, don't use Fireball, or also I don't know, spec this life tap gem on it, and you can have huge damage boost to your main skill. Here, this one. You can slap it into Fireball and run with like 1 mana. It's crazy good to have Zenith. So, I think that's mostly my build. I can only recommend to try it out. Get yourself some body armors with % life, and you don't even need this expensive Wrath Piss. I have just a standard one. The Corruption just gave an extra socket, and even with 3 sockets, which is an exceptional unique, corrupted with 3rd socket, these are super cheap. I don't know, I paid I think 8 divs for this one. You can get one with 2 sockets for like, I don't know, 1 or 2 divs, because everyone is chasing these high numbers here. But I've checked in PoE, of course your damage will go up slightly, but I don't think it's worth the money. Why would you invest 100, 200 divs for like 10% damage increase? I don't know. Just some final remarks, which I forgot earlier, is for one, also I'm running the Defiance of Destiny. It's such a great defensive option, defensive layer. You'll get so much life, you can just stand around in some enemies and get hit non-stop, do nothing, and your life will always level at like 50%, so it's insane defense layer. Of course you can run a huge +3, +4 level amulet. In this case I was lucky to corrupt the +1 gem levels. It could also go up to 12% life, or even 4, well, it could go up to 12 if you have the 10% max roll. It could go up to 14% with the corruption, but I think that the +1 level is better than 2% life. So just to show you what it's look like if you go for the highest damage setup, which is this one with a +6 fire skill level. I have to reallocate some dexterity quickly, because I lose it from this one, and as you can see my damage goes from 2.2 to 4.5 million. It's ridiculous. So, but still, I don't know why you would need this level of damage. I've tested every encounter. I've done 6-man party, 150% delirious maps with the Defiance of Destiny on, and I could carry the whole party. I could kill all the rares, it was no issue. So, I don't know, it's insane damage levels, it's crazy. But you don't need it, it's too much damage, so you can go for more quality of life. You could also, if you've got the money, you could also, well, it's not really expensive, but you could also go for a belt with 100% boot effect, and then you get 20% move speed from your belt, and just put the resistances on your rings. You'll have lower life, lower damage, but 20% increased move speed. About move speed, this build currently has 68% move speed. In hideout, in maps, usually with the Spirit of the Stag, but you could also run the Wolf or the Cat, which also give the 15% move speed buff. You're, well, 15% above that, so it's like 82%, and it's the uptime, I'd say, during mapping is like 80, at least 80%, because of the 20-second duration. So 82 move speed, not the best, but it feels alright. Doesn't feel slow. As I said, you can get, theoretically, you could also get a 60% move speed boots, but I don't know, these are kinda affordable. I think I paid 30 divines. It's, I think, the second most expensive piece on my build. Maybe you say, but this one with +6, but realistically you can deterministically craft these wands with +5 and these mods with 2 sockets for 15 divines. So it's not that big of a deal. And sanctifying, I don't know, let's say it's a 1 in 4 chance to hit +6, then you will need 60 divines for a +6 wand. Seems alright to me if you're min-maxing in the end game. So compared to a Spellslinger wand, which I don't know, the cost might rise to mirror levels for a sanctified one. And depending on your playstyle, right now I have the From Nothing with Bulwark, which gets me all these life regen nodes. Technically, as I've showed earlier, you don't need Tecrod and the life regen nodes to make the build function. It's just a feel-good thing, a quality of life thing, and like there's every, I don't know, 10 or 20 maps you are running into some situations where this one saves you. But you could also go for a Wahlpact thing, where you can spec momentum, which gives movement speed. You well, indirect, because you don't have the movement penalty from your armor. You could also then spec light on your feet, and you have a lot more movement speed. You can also do these crit hit and crit damage bonus for enemies, because most cases you kill the enemies more or less off screen with Ember Fusillade, so this one is kind of always active. So this one is so nice quality of life one as well. You can just decide for your own which one you want. And about the tree, yeah, usually this one is the best skill, or the best point for your build. It gives the life and the movement speed. It's just huge. There's no better passive on the tree, so you definitely want to get it. If you're pathing down here, it's so many passives. You have to unspec so many damage nodes and quality of life nodes. I think it's not worth it. So I'd recommend to either get it as a anoint on your amulet, and if you're playing Ember Fusillade, you also want definitely split shot, because it's so good for clearing potential, just so good to clearing packs. So I just got the split shot on my Megalomaniac. These are not really expensive. I mean, with the gem enthusiasts, they are expensive, but with split shot, I don't know, they go for like a div or 2 divs. If you want a great second option, of course they're more expensive. In this case I got Tempered Mind, which is great damage node. It gives, I don't know, 160k additional damage. And yeah, that's the tree. So as an extended showcase, I will show you a map which has 39% less recovery rate on the map, which will scale then by map effect and so on. It is Delirious, and I have unspec'd the Tecrod node. These tablets just give... oh wait, that's the wrong one. Just some random tablets, nothing interesting to see here. Acid Fireball Explosion. Bajillion projectiles flying everywhere. So as you can see, that's a really hard, tough endgame map with lots of delirium, lots of bad mods, and we are perfectly fine without Tecrod. I don't know why people always say you need this. You just don't. It's a nice quality of life. It gives you more defenses basically. However, if you can afford it, don't buy it. Oh, shit. Map crash. And as you can see here, what I was talking about earlier, you get the fully broken armor on your bosses, and you also get the other effects of your nice elemental damage, like chill, ignite, ignition, and so on. Yeah. Fix your game, GGG. I can also show you a ritual, what it looks like. Or a breach, let's do breach. Please excuse my frame rate, but Delirium just kills it. Yeah, just to show you I'm not taking anything. This one is not allocated. I don't have Spell Leech. It's just Time of Need combined with the life until 2%, and of course some occasional life remnants in Bloodmage. So yeah, that's it. You don't need Tecrod. Oops.